you ever wondered what is next in your career? And if so, have you thought about how to approach your career planning and development, how to figure things out? Because perhaps you're debating whether you should be really strategic about it or whether you should rather let it flow organically, waiting for the opportunities to come to you. Now, if that resonates at all, I've got great news for you because I had just wrapped up a conversation with a colleague of mine, a career coach, Hale Doğancı, and together we have got some pretty strong tips and techniques to get you started. Just to tell you about us, Hala, as a career coach, she has got 14 years of experience across the Fortune 500 companies in big pharma, consulting, and startups. And she actually specializes, let me read it to you, in strength assessment, personal branding, career strategizing, and creating effective routines and habits. And as for me, if you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Alena Huberová, and I'm the founder of SHELeads, which is a holistic leadership program for women. And it is my big mission to support amazing women just like you to develop confidence, courage, and leadership influence so that they can succeed in their workplaces, especially if they're male dominated. So that's something about us, but enough with that. I want to jump right into the conversation. Enjoy it. Hale, it's so lovely to have you here with me, and I'm super excited about this topic because it is a hot topic for my clients. So, Hal, something that I very often hear from the people that I work with, especially at the beginning of our work together, is this. I typically ask them, where is it they find themselves in their career right now? And what is next? What's coming up next? And to my surprise, the most common answer I receive is, I have no idea. And some of these people, I mean, you know that I work with women and I work with women in managerial positions from junior to senior. And they, some of them, they really enjoy their jobs, but they find themselves at a stage that they know that they can do more and they feel they're not leveraging their skill set enough. And so they're kind of looking to advance, but they don't know how. And then the
Yeah.
second group of people is they no longer enjoy the job. They no longer feel inspired and motivated, and they're thinking of some kind of transition, and they're not quite sure how to do that. And both of these groups, they always ask, so how do I start? Where do I start? Should I be really strategic about this? Or should I just let it flow and let the opportunities come to me organically? So I thought this
Mm.
would be a fantastic subject to discuss with you because obviously as a career coach, you've got tons of experience. So what do you
Yeah.
think, Hal? How do we help these women?
I have a lot of thoughts about what you just said, for sure. It's such a good question, and really also a common pattern, I would say, within my clients. I'm also, as you know, focusing on women leaders and also managerial, so mid-career level. And let's start with the first thing, where to start with, career planning and development with the first question. The first and foremost, and in coaching, you know this as well, is this part where we have a current state from A and we want to change something. So in between, and we want to go to B. So the desired state, basically. And in between, something needs to happen, right? And in order to go from A to B, we need to first create some awareness here, right? And to create that awareness, we need to do basically a self-assessment. So this is where everything starts, because in order to change something, we need to have awareness about what's going on. So I would say for sure a self-assessment about your skills, and more importantly about your values and about your strengths, where you're at currently. That's super important, to have a quick scan of what's going on. And to be honest, you can do this also on your own, right? Just to understand, okay, where am I at right now? What do I have? Like, what is it that I do? Am I enjoying it? Like, to tune in with yourself, I would say. But ideally, of course, you go deeper into this with a mentor, with a coach, or it could be your colleague, it could be a manager. It doesn't really matter, whatever helps actually. But you need to first understand your current state, where you're at. And then the next step would be also to identify, and I always say to have like a blurry vision, right? But not to worry too much about the how, the how you're going to go there. Because what we do sometimes is we are being too rigid about our development, about where we need to go, that we are missing out on opportunities that might going to come in and flow in, and could be also getting out us, out of our comfort zone, which we really need, and also enhance our diverse skill set. So we need to also, be on the watch out for those kind of opportunities, I believe. But have a blurry vision where we want to go. So the long-term vision should be set. And this can be with,
Hale, may I stop you?
many, sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to zoom in on that, but
Yeah,
that is easier said than done, right? Having some
true.
kind of longer term vision of what I want myself to
Yeah.
do. So I have my little strategies and techniques on how to potentially help clients do that. And I really wonder how you help the clients do that. So what would be that process of generating that long-term vision, and how specific, how detailed we should be?
I would say, again, with the, first step is always a self-assessment about values. So where are your core values? Creating awareness around that and aligning that with what you do will make a huge change anyway, and that vision will come. I do work with lots of, templates. I work also with psychometric assessments, so scientific-based tools, such
Mhm.
as Big Five, for example, is a personality test and assessment that is huge. Or some of you would be familiar with SWOT analyzers or SMART goals,
Yeah.
um, and these kind of techniques. I'm a big believer in them too, because they outline, they structure our thoughts, and that gives us the opportunity to really reflect on what is important to us and then prioritize. And
Mm.
it's really the start of understanding first your values. What is the most important thing for you that affects your behavior, your language, and also your decision making? Because if you want it or not, what we believe and all of these values is basically directing us in our decision making every single day, in our professional
Mm.
and also in our personal lives.
Mm.
And there, I believe, is already like breakthroughs. I see lots of enlightenment and so on. Creating awareness around them would be definitely, for example, an example a step, but it's a small step towards your long-term vision. And then, of
Mm.
course, to understand your skills and strengths. And sometimes it's easy as said to go into your job description sometimes, right? To like see what kind of skills were needed. Of course, that can change. So we need to definitely, assess there. But what kind of skills do you need to do that job that you're doing today? And so I do that as well, job description assessments, and also what kind of skill sets, hard skills and soft skills do you need for the position that you have currently and or where you want to go.
Mm.
And there is this and many coaches will be familiar with that, this question of what else, what options do we have, what options do we, what else, to ask that questions. And you would be surprised how much it comes up. Like when you open that box of options, like what options do we have, we can do here, move you into another role or explore another soft skill or hard skill, I think there comes a lot of things up. And it sometimes starts with a simple brainstorming session, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It is so funny because when we do these kind of exercises with my clients, I
Mm-hmm.
often ask them, so put down on a piece of paper 10 things that you really value in yourself. It can be a skill set, a quality, a trait, or
Yeah.
whatever. And they sit there forever in order to produce this list of 10 things. Whereas if I ask them, um, where do you think you could do better? What are your weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
They sit down and within a matter of 10 seconds, they come up with a list of 20 things. I don't know whether you have the same experience, right?
I'm not surprised. Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
So, so yeah, I think it's so important for people to do that self-reflection. And if they really struggle, they should seek feedback. And as you said, even feedbacks from the colleagues, feedbacks from the manager, feedbacks from the typical 360 that we get.
For example, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, because sometimes we take for granted what we can do, right? But that particular skill could actually be part of our unique skill set, but we don't even see it that way, right?
Yeah,
So it's so
exactly.
important. Yeah. All
And
right. So that,
yeah, and
go
one
ahead.
thing I want to add here, because I feel like it's important, something simple maybe, but so effective is, and when I say networking, 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 people always like think as it's like we need, business relationships and we need to create visibility. That's why, or we want to move into different positions. So we would need that person. Actually, what networking does for you, if you do it consistently, is get to know yourself a little bit more about, create also again this awareness about your skill sets and what the industry is talking about right now. That's what networking should be about. Because every single time when you talk to a new person from your industry, or your same sector maybe, you learn something new about yourself, and that's what the focus needs to be on. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very powerful to change that perspective a little bit, not to see it as a minute just to go there to get to know people, and, um,
Mm-hmm.
so you never know when you're going to need that person again. It's more
Mm-hmm.
about really creating the awareness around your skill sets and about
Mm-hmm.
the industry trends and what people are
Yeah.
talking about, for sure.
And also, I like this point, and also to see whether there is a fit for
Exactly.
you in that specific sector, industry, field, or a specific job, right? Because
Exactly.
sometimes people have these ideas as to what they would like to do, but they are very far removed from the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell people that why don't they look for an expert that actually does the type of job that they
Yeah.
see themselves doing and actually ask plenty of questions as to what the life of this person is like having that job, right?
Yeah.
Because we
Exactly.
need to be pretty close to reality. Sometimes we want something and then we get it and we're so happy, only to realize, oh shit, I never wanted this in the first place. I
Yeah,
didn't
that's the worst.
imagine the job would be like that. Yeah. By the
That's the
way,
worst. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the worst. By the way, still, if you allow me, I would love to just talk a little bit more as to the blurred vision that you mentioned, that it's really important for people to have. Would
Hmm.
you give me an example of that? How actually, what does it mean, blurred? To what kind of detail we should go to when defining this vision? Would you have an example for me?
So you mean the blurry vision that you're gonna have
Yeah,
about your life, right?
it's
I
kind of
mean,
no,
mhm,
if I understood you correctly,
mhm,
then you're talking about how do we get from the point A to the point B, right? And you
mhm. Yeah,
mentioned that, first of all, I need to understand what is my point A, and I need to acquire a lot of self-awareness. I need to do a lot of self-reflection, yeah, all that stuff that you have mentioned. And then I
yeah.
understood that the point B is that blurry vision that we should have so that we at
Mhm,
least know where is it we are heading. That
mhm.
B destination may change along the way, right? But at least it needs to be some kind of blurry destination so that we know whether to take that path, which can bring us closer, or that path. Did I understand
Yeah.
it correctly? That's what you're talking about. The B is that blurry vision.
Yes, exactly. That's such a good question, such a good question. And that's where, people kind of give up, I guess, and what we also talked about. But this blurry vision that I'm talking about is, yes, the only constant is change, as we know. And I know that you like that quote as well. That's
Yes.
definitely a theme in my life. But the blurry vision I'm talking about is literally what kind of person that you want to become. That we need to know, right? So we need to know, like when we are there, wherever that is, we need to know how we want to feel. We need to know what we want to, who we need to, not need to be, but want to be with. And that's the blurry vision that I'm talking about. And now you will probably say, but that's very personal life. And I always say this quote, professional growth and personal growth are interconnected with each other. I never take them separately because they are going hand in hand and they are complementary with each other. Because how you are, your decision making process in your personal life will definitely affect also your professional life, the way you are, the way you lead people and the way you interconnect with people. So the vision that I'm talking about is literally about the feelings and the person that you want to become. It's not about the
Mhm.
job title,
Mhm.
and it's not about, the industry or the company. It's about which direction you feel like your gut and as a human
Mhm.
being, as an individual, is leaning towards and that is the vision. And the rest in between, the how and
Mhm.
which steps we need to take, that is completely up to the opportunities that are going to come in, which we need to be flexible with. So it's about this being proactive, yes, but it's also adaptability that we need to balance, these both things.
Yes.
Um, be, because the opportunities come in and life and changes all the time. And also the markets change, the market trends change, to be honest. But what doesn't change is definitely your values and evolving, and they're evolving as well, of course, but also the strengths and all of that. So you need to constantly also reassess them, right, within this ongoing.
Yes.
Um, but the most important thing, I guess, here is to understand that you are constantly going to adapt to what is in front of you, I guess, right?
Yeah.
To just to wrap this thought process up now. I hope
Yeah.
it makes it a bit more
It
clear what.
really, I think it really does.
Okay.
And I'm glad that we zoomed in on it specifically because I have a feeling that many people feel that that blurred vision should be literally the kind of job they want to get in that
Yes.
kind of field, industry, etc. But I love your idea because why don't we take a look at how we want to feel at
Mm.
that next level, right? What would be the ideal workplace in which we can thrive? and more specifically, in which I, with this set of values, with this kind of skill set, is that the right kind of environment for me to thrive? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of not focusing specifically on that job description that I'm looking for, or the job
Yeah.
position or the industry, but rather who do I want to become and how do I want to feel in
Yeah.
that workplace? Because then I think that can really speed up even the job search process because you can eliminate many opportunities right away. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you realize that the workplace is not going to enable you to have the life that you want, right?
Yeah.
So
That's so
I
important.
love that. I love that. All right, Hal. So we we spoke of the question that we're trying to answer in here is how do we go? How do we go about the career development? Where do we start? So you mentioned that it's that self-exploration, self-reflection, asking ourselves some important questions as to who am I? What do I stand for? What are my values? What are my strengths?
Yeah.
Something that I didn't hear you say, and maybe I have overheard that, is what about stuff that makes me passionate, stuff that I'm really interested in? The reason I mention this, Hale, is that um, in my work with clients, I often find that the stuff that they consider, or the qualities or the skill set they consider their strengths and they're really good at, not everything they actually enjoy. So
Mm.
someone might be incredibly efficient in project planning,
Hmm.
and other people might be coming to them offering all kind of opportunities to run and lead projects, and yet the person is not particularly interested in it, right? And so I think it's
Hmm.
also really important to ask the question, okay, this is something that I'm really good at,
Hmm.
but is this something that I'm passionate about? Is that
Hmm.
something in which I'm interested to grow further? What do you think about that?
It's also an interesting question. I like the way you look at it. So the question for me, I would, as a coach, I would ask another question. I would say, what do you distinguish? Like, what is it? Do we need to take it separately, the passion and the skill sets that you're good at? Because I feel like sometimes we separate both.
Mhm.
Because the thing that we are passionate about needs to be something not lucrative maybe, but the thing that we are good at we need to do, like we are kind of latching onto it, right? So it gives us kind of stability because we know, okay, that exists. But the thing that we are passionate about, I believe, is the more creative side of ourselves. And I say, why not merge them together, right? I mean, we need both actually. It's good that you have the skill set. And if it's, for example, project management, it's a good hard skill to have, especially nowadays, what's happening. And why not combine this, but take it maybe and see it from different angles, right? Because right now, the environment that you're also putting this hard skill in is also very important. So it can be still fun and creative, but
Mhm.
depends on, again, like what you see and define as passion, right? What do you want to feel when you say, like, or say, when you say I'm passionate about this?
Mhm.
Like, what is that definition of passion? Maybe in some people say I'm passionate about, I don't know, data analyzers or something. I'm not, by the way, but some people are.
Neither do neither
um,
am I.
so I we would need to go into that. But
Yeah.
when it comes to like identify first the skills gap, right?
Mm.
And this is very important, actually. And I did this for a very long time in Accenture to identify skill gaps. But it's not just about the soft skills. I see sometimes too much focus on soft skills and communication, leadership. Yes, they're important, but equally also your hard skills, right? Hard skills like data analysis, project management, technical expertise, and so on are the ones that we need to kind of balance them out. Yeah. So your hard skills and your soft skills. And there are definitely ways. I don't want to drift out from the question, so I'm gonna pause
Yeah.
here. But yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I'm glad that you mentioned that because as part of defining the way how to get from A to B, um, I not only need to analyze what is and who I am,
Yeah.
but also what is it I need in order to get myself to that next level? What other kind of skills, whether it is soft skills or hard skills, will get me there further, right? And then somehow prioritize, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we define that in order to get to that next job level, oh, I will need to acquire knowledge about the industry. I will need to develop this skill, that skill, that skill. So we also need to prioritize because we can't possibly start acquiring all of the skills um, at once, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
is a common mistake for sure, to focus too much at once on things. And
Mhm.
I think the best way to do is, which I do, I call it the skill matrix. So you list all the required skills for, the to just to assess, have a quick assessment of that, where you want to go, the career path, and then you rank them by priority, as you just mentioned, right? So you definitely focus on the ones that are the most important, right? To go further, because you cannot focus on because you would not master anything if you focus on everything. So it's not possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is one more thought that comes to mind, or one more idea that I have for our audience when we are at the stage of defining the vision. So you mentioned it's all about how do I want to feel? What kind of person do I want to become? I also use an exercise in order to tap into our more intuitive self. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you know this exercise, the time machine. I totally love
No.
it. I mean, there are so many different techniques that we can use, but in some, it's an exercise in which you spend visualizing what an totally awesome, ideal. Hang on, let me backtrack. You think of, let's say, 10 years down the road. And then
Mm-hmm.
you think of what would be for you an ideal day.
Yeah.
You literally visualize how you want to feel, what kind of people you want to work with, what kind of workplace you
Yeah.
want to be part of. And that I find that exercise really beneficial because when we go through this exercise, it's really good to do this as a cognitive exercise. But I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that if we only rely on the mind to come up with all these ideas, we're gonna
Yes.
miss on a lot. And so I like also involving our intuition, yeah, and
Absolutely.
apply a little bit of dreaming. What would be a day that I would so love to have, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so good that you said that, because and you asked about an example. So let's not go far, because this is how I started, right? This is why I got into this career coaching in the first place. And I was really trying to find the right environment for myself, right? So, and corporate environment or not, or maybe to have your own business, etc. And what I did was I mapped out my whole week, actually. It was not just one day. I said the perfect week. And this tool I use to this day still with my clients. So we map out the perfect week, how that would look like, until like to even how you're dressing. So it's very important. That was also a very important part. Yes. What kind of dress you're wearing, like where you wake up, which city, and so on. So I think that's so powerful, this
Yeah.
visionary, envisioning this ideal life of yours. And
Uh-huh.
then so much comes up. I do this in meditation mode a lot. I think that's where you can also tune in with this natural self, the positive mind and the negative mind. So I work with that as well. But what you said, it just makes me so smile. Like, you're so accurate with this. Yeah. So it's so
Yeah.
important to do that.
I'm so happy that we remembered that because
Yeah.
it's so powerful. And what's more, it triggers this special energy, this
Hmm.
special excitement. Suddenly, I am so much more charged up in order to start doing whatever I need to do to get myself to that point B, right?
Yeah.
And it's what that dreaming or it's what that visualization can do. Oh,
Yeah.
powerful. And
And
it's such a shame. I just don't know what your experience is, but it's such a shame that in today's world,
mhm.
people are very much heavily relying on their mind to do everything. And they're
Yeah.
forgetting about the wisdom of the heart, about their
Yeah.
intuitive self
Yeah.
that have got so much power. So I'm glad that we made our audience this reminder.
I think it's very important, actually, to
Mm,
tune in with that, and you explain it so beautifully. Yeah.
yeah,
If you
great. So, Hale, we talked about what would be the different steps in order
Mm.
to get from what is now to what I want to create for myself. So, what do you think? I mean, unless there is something else that we forgot, do you think that it would be a good idea to explore the common mistakes that you see your clients making when they go through this process?
Yeah. You know, that's also a very good question. I would say, first and foremost, what I observed was to to being too rigid about what is next. Like, and it's very short term, and about their career plans. So, and what we are doing is, of course, we are kind of closing ourselves in our cocoons, and we are not getting out of our comfort zone. And if you're not getting out of your comfort zone, obviously you're not growing, right? So, and that is very important, actually. Or also, what I see, that's why I always say this balancing between proactivity and adaptability is key, because you are waiting sometimes also too long for organic opportunities, right? Without communicating anything about where you want to go and what you want to do. That's why we need this blurry vision about, so we can say yes to the things that we want to grow into,
Yeah,
and no to the things that, that's why we need that, because otherwise there are no boundaries and we say yes to everything. And that's also not
yeah,
what we want. So it needs to be this balance again, for
yeah.
sure. But this is a common mistake I see.
I see exactly the same. And in
Mm.
fact, many of the people I observe, they are maybe in their position 3 years, 4 years, and then they realize that it's not,
Yeah.
it's not something they wanted in the first place. It may be something that the boss suggested or their colleagues saw as the best next step. But they realize 3 years, 4 years down the road that it wasn't their vision. They jumped
Mhm.
onto a vision of someone else. This is so
Yeah,
common, right?
it is
Yeah.
actually. And I
Mm.
gave you this example about this one, the more senior level, the higher you go up, the more often you see this pattern. And I was literally have been told that HR, and this was this sentence from this leader, HR told me this is the natural next step for me to go into. That's why I am here now, but I'm not happy. So you
Mm.
don't want that, right? So that's why it's so important to do what everything we talked about, these assessments and this blurry vision to create that.
Yeah, yeah. Because so many times we hear, just say yes to the opportunity when it comes.
Yeah.
It's just that perhaps you have a pretty strong skill set. And so the chances are that you will be proposed many different opportunities, right? So imagine
Yeah.
just saying yes to all of the opportunities. So I think it's, yeah, in order to have that boundary, in order to know what to say yes to and no to, we need to have that blurry vision of what that next destination looks like,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any other mistakes that you see people making? I'm just checking my notes.
I'm I was just taking a note because I want to mention one more thing. I mean, I think
Hmm.
we mentioned some common mistakes about not having a clear direction, which then, leads to this misalignment. And this misalignment makes us frustrated, and this frustration goes beyond. So this is usually, a chain effect. And we are
Hmm.
setting too, overly ambitious goals is one of the other things that I observe, that we are like super motivated and then we think we want to go very unrealistic steps, like we want to go here and we are here.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I always say this quote also: how you do anything is how you do everything. And it's
Hmm.
about the small things that you do on a daily basis matter, not
Hmm.
those, tremendous decisions that you make in life, but what do you do every single day? Micro steps.
Hmm.
Um, these are leading us to success and more fulfillment. And I think that's also very important, maybe to know.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and yeah,
you mentioned setting the right goals that should not
yeah,
be overly ambitious, and then I sense a hint at habits, right? Because those are the things
yes,
that we do on daily basis.
yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you also something about this habit part, because I feel like this could be very important here. There was this Adriana Huffington. She is this lady from Huffington Post. Well, she was owning that. Now she sold it and she went into well-being direction. She asked Jeff Bezos about his habits because she was very curious about that, how he's sleeping. And Jeff Bezos said, I sleep every night 8 to 9 hours without any questions asked, right? Always 8 hours. And Adriana was very curious, like, why? Why is that so important in your life? This little habit of yours. And what he said is, he said, I am being judged on the quality of my decisions, not on the quantity of my decisions. And I still to this day, I think it's so powerful because he's so right. Those small things that we do every day, they matter because he's really being judged not on so many things that he's doing, like all of the decisions. He's being judged on the quality of his decision. So
Mm.
it's never about the quantity of the lots of we need to do lots of things, we need to hustle. We still, I feel like maybe it's generational trauma or something, we still feel like we need to hustle and bustle or something
Yeah.
to be successful. But simple things like that, like an 8 hour sleep, is success for Jeff Bezos, like I
Yeah.
think it's so interesting. So the small habits
Yeah.
matter for sure.
I couldn't agree more with you. And
Yeah.
it's um it's all these lifestyle decisions that we're making, right? Because sleep is a big one. And for a period of
Mm,
time, there's been a lot of like different theories on how we can hack our sleep. And I think according to the
yeah.
latest research, we know that that is not effective. But it's also about what we eat. People don't realize that the quality of their decisions is also influenced by stuff that you put into your body. What you
Yeah.
drink, what you eat, right? Whatever you digest. And many other things,
Yeah.
exercising and all these we hear this all the time. This is nothing new for our audience. And yet so many people still ignore it and they don't
Yeah.
realize the importance of having these healthy habits in order to be able to make more quality decisions. Yeah. Um, I actually wonder when you talked about Adriana talking to Jeff Bezos, I thought, I wonder what Elon Musk would say. Because I think the
Oh
last
yeah.
time the last time I heard a podcast with Elon Musk,
True.
he mentioned something like half an hour of sleep,
Yeah. Yeah,
an
yeah.
hour. So I wonder whether he changed his mind in the meantime, whether he had discovered himself that the biohack is not going to work. All right. So
Well, good
let
point.
me, one other thing that I'm thinking of, and I'm sure that you will resonate with this challenge that I'm hearing my clients to struggle with.
Mhm.
How do I grow my career and really focus on doing a great job so that I can feel fulfilled and I am recognized for what I'm doing? And at
Mhm.
the same time, how can I do that without compromising my personal life? So how
Mm.
do you go about that's a big mistake that people are making because they don't even think about that. They don't have those priorities defined, right? How do you tackle
Yeah.
this?
I mean, I guess this is the question I feel like sometimes, how can I not compromise my personal life and have this work-life balance? But I think the most important thing is, and this will not sound, and it's nothing new, but establishing really these boundaries are very important. I think, yes, time management. I don't know how many workshops and trainings I did about time management. It's always, requested of me. But in this time management, the majority of the topics, the majority of my slides are about boundaries. So you need to really do this not for your own, to have that respect for yourself, but also to set an example, especially if you're a higher up role, to set an example for everybody else, because otherwise you will end up, again, we're coming back to this quality of decisions and not quantity of decisions. You will end up not focusing on the very important tasks on a daily basis. So I think you need to understand first your agenda. That's very important. So when you block your time, for example, and I see very wild stuff sometimes, but I always say schedule your health and your core values into your agenda, into your Google Calendar or Outlook, wherever you do that. You need to do this in order to not just set an example, but in order to also know where, is the boundary for you. So drinking water or having lunch are things that you need to do. That's important. Um, and really concrete tips. What I did also with some clients while we were setting up routines and habits is really to go sometimes out and have that meeting outside while you're walking, for example, to be very concrete now. So these kind of things will give you this balance between, also your career and your personal life. But you need to understand, to always be mindful about what you do, what you want to accomplish in a week, what you want to accomplish in a day. And that's why setting intentions, for example, is very important. So what is that intention that will, carry you throughout your day? Is it like also professional and also your personal development? Doesn't matter. Again, it goes hand in hand. So setting those
When you say
intentions. Mhm,
when you say intentions, Hale, give me an
mhm.
example of an intention.
So sometimes I do it's just a word. So I set up my agenda and I'm still writing it down, by the way. And then I put this into my Google Calendar. And then I have this section where I call it intentions. And it says, what do I want to accomplish this week? Like when this week ends on Friday evening or whatever that is for somebody, how do I want to feel and how do I like what do I want to accomplish basically? That's a question actually, yeah. And I say, for example, I want to feel that I stick to my routines and I want to feel, that I respected my boundaries or like whatever that is for you. I sometimes put flexibility, the word of flexibility
Mhm.
into my calendar because I say, this week will be so messy and lots of things will come in. So I need to be flexible with my routines. So that word is basically
Mm.
carrying me through the whole week. And I know
Yes.
flexibility is the thing that I need to focus on, not to be
Right.
rigid. Yeah.
Right. You know what
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for those specific examples. I think that makes it more concrete, more tangible. You know what I often put as my intention?
Mm.
I mean, I
Tell
can't
me.
believe I'm even saying it. Joy,
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I often even I mean,
True.
I love my job. It's
Yeah.
what I have chosen to do. It's
Same.
what I have dreamt to do. And yet, even in that state, sometimes I get so deeply engaged with everything, and I become so serious about it, and I'm overly responsible and conscientious, and I forget to introduce more fun into
Yeah.
my working week. I have a lot of fun during the weekend, but during the working week, and
Yeah.
I believe that this is an issue for so many of us who are
Yeah.
who are in leading positions or some um, important jobs.
Yeah.
We get really serious about our job and we
Yeah.
forget to flow. We forget to experience joy and to have fun. And
Mm.
yet, you know what I find sometimes? I love, by the way, what you said, that it's so important to uh, have dedicated slots in our agenda for our
Mhm.
personal stuff, whether it is
Yeah.
hobbies, whether it is dinner with friends, whatever. In fact, when I was trained as an entrepreneur, that is what they told us.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
and your priorities go into the calendar first. And only then think about the work project.
Yeah.
I find it magical. And sometimes I forget about it. And then um, I am so reminded how important it is. Um, and also, what happens to me, sometimes I have a slot for something personal, going to a theater, going to a cinema, and it starts fairly early in the afternoon, maybe 6-ish. I usually finish work 6, something like that. And sometimes I plan activity that starts at 6. And as the day progresses, I get more and more apprehensive, and I even find myself going angry with myself that I have slotted a personal activity when I should still be working and thinking about all these things.
Yeah.
And so I go into that activity almost angry that I have set myself up for this.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours go by and I get into such a state of joy and flow. I am experiencing something magnificent. And then I tell myself, Alana, can you see?
Yeah.
Can you see how much energy you have just got from that activity that you were upset to schedule in your calendar? So we
Yeah.
need to be reminded that this is really important because the personal, well, I think that when we start putting priorities on our personal things, we
Yeah.
start experiencing more of that joy and we start increasing our level of energy that can then help us to work on the things that we need to work, right? Because when we
Exactly.
are drawn out of energy, I mean, we have no, we don't feel like doing anything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And there comes this connection, right? With personal and professional growth are interconnected with each other. It's
Yes.
as simple as that. The routines and habits we have, they matter actually. And that's why it's a huge topic within my clients. And who knew what you said? I can so relate to it. That I always thought that when I do something I love and doesn't feel like working, I will be not stressed out or I will feel joy all the time. It's not the case. You still can, be stressed out, but how you react, and I wanted to say this, to certain things is the most important, not the situation itself. It's never the situation itself. So I think
Yeah.
it's always the reaction towards the things
Yeah.
within any kind of job, basically. Yeah.
I agree. And then we could go on about that touches the topic of personal development, of our
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, of our ability to regulate emotions, etc., which is such an important topic in this
Yeah.
whole theme of career development. And so I just want to emphasize to our audience, whilst you're doing your strategic plans, also make sure you're working on yourself. You're working on having a growth and healthy mindset. You have healthy attitudes because that will help you a lot in order to advance in your career. So, Hal,
Absolutely.
I'm kind of aware of time, so we have covered
Yes.
a lot of ground, and there is so much more to cover. But I think we will need to leave it for the next time.
Yeah.
So, tell me, so if we were to conclude, so we
Mhm.
provided our audience with some basic steps of how to think about career development and what actions specifically to take, starting
Yeah.
from that, do that exploration as to who you are, what you stand for, what you're really good at, what you're passionate about, and also
Yeah.
know at least approximately where you're heading, right? So we were talking about that. We were also talking about the importance of defining boundaries. We were talking about the importance of having the priorities clear, right? Which is so important. And knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to, because by saying yes to everything is a
Yeah.
recipe for disaster, in my point of view.
Yes.
We also talked about setting goals and making sure that they are ambitious enough, but not overly ambitious that could feel just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Micro
to bring
steps.
us into that paralysis, right?
Exactly.
Um, and and we talked about slotting, that's probably not the right word, but making sure that we put in our agenda our personal life and personal activities, right? Because
Yes.
sometimes whatever doesn't exist in the calendar, it doesn't exist. It won't get done, right? We tend to be our lowest priority. We tend to give priorities to other people, other stuff, other demands. So
Yeah.
those were some of the things that are really important when we want to get to that next level. Is there anything else, Hale, that you would like to add?
I would say, in my opinion, I see a great deal when it comes to your core values, to align that to what you do. Because again, if whatever we do, the behavior and the decision making that I was talking about, it does come from your core values. This is what you know act from. And I think creating awareness around them, it shows lots of breakthroughs. Yeah, so I see a great deal in doing that exercise with my clients. And again, you summarize it so well. I think the self-assessment is where we start, right?
Yeah.
And using also scientific-based tools helps you to, you know, these things that I mentioned, psychometric assessments, the big five, and the growth model. These are really great tools to explore. And the rest, I think you mentioned. And also, you know, do have the courage to, and I want to emphasize this, doing the work, have the courage to look inside and, you know, to do the work. There's where everything starts aligning in your life, everything, your job, your relationships, and so on. So we need to do that. And I know that this audience is definitely, you know, onto it for sure.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's also important. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hal. And whilst you were talking, I had this other idea that I want to mention
Yeah.
to our audience. Please speak up about what you want.
Yeah.
Because I find that we keep our dreams to ourselves so often.
Yeah.
And
True.
that's a huge mistake. When we start sharing our ideas about what we would desire to do with our bosses, with our peers, with other people in the industry, I find that somehow the universe conspires to bring that opportunity to you, right? But if you
Yeah.
keep it to yourself, no one will know. And so no one can help you. And so if you
Exactly.
have that blurry vision of where you want to go, talking about it, share it, scream to
Yeah.
the world about it, because it's
True.
just a matter of time and something is going to come your way, right?
Yeah,
It's
for
super
sure.
important. And as part of that, we could then go on onto the subject of personal branding. But I
Yes,
feel, I feel that that's such a huge subject that we
it
may
is.
we
Yeah.
may need another discussion for that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It's a huge topic, but I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Personal branding is also huge
It
right now.
is.
It's
And
one
it
of the
is
trend things.
so
Yeah,
important. It is
yeah.
so important. Right. Well, Hal, this has been a pleasure. We are on
Likewise.
the same vibe, right?
Yes, for
So
sure.
Hale is a wonderful collaborator with the SHELeads initiative, with the SHELeads program. So I'm so happy to have you very close by. So thank you so
Thank you.
much for your valuable advice.
Thank you.
Tell me, Hale, if someone is interested in talking to you about career coaching specifically, where can they find you?
So they can reach out to me. I guess we will put the
We will put
contacts
the links, right? We will
exactly
put the yeah.
from my website. So I do have a
Uh-huh.
link there. And they
Yeah.
can, I always start with a discovery call. So we first, you know, see what is the need, and then we take it from there, right? So that's what I do usually as a first step. But we will put the link probably here somewhere, and then you can
Yes.
reach me also on social media, LinkedIn or Instagram.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or reach out to me and I will pass on the message to Hal, no problem. And also for our audience to know that if you are interested in a full leadership program, we run the She Leads program twice a year. So if you want to learn more, drop me a message. Yeah, great. So thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I certainly hope that we will have another possibility to discuss other super important issues and help our
Yes.
audience. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Elena. It
be
was really lovely
well.
talking to you.
Thank you so much.